Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Classic Mini DIY, where we now always start the episode in my Tacoma. So on this episode of Classic Mini DIY, we're doing something a little bit differently. Last episode we went up and looked at a Super 998, and on this episode we are going to be going down to South Carolina to visit another friend of mine and help diagnose a problem he's having with his Mini, aka an oil leak. He's been combating for a little while. So what we're going to call this series is the Minystery series, the Minystery. I'll let you figure out how to say that word. However, the whole deal is we're going to be diagnosing this problem, seeing if we can figure out where the oil leak is coming from, and then if we have the tools, we'll go ahead and fix it while we're here. If not, we'll leave him with some homework so he knows what to do when he gets out into the garage next time. Also, while we're down there, we're going to be checking out a Mark I body shell that he purchased. He was going to rebuild it, but he is going to be moving away from South Carolina here pretty soon. So what that means is that I have a special offer for you guys. This is completely unaffiliated with me. I don't get any sort of kickback for this, but he has a Mark I body shell that will be for sale when this video drops. The link will be in the description below, and you can check that out if you want to get it's a serious project from what I understand. We'll be able to see it here in just a little bit, but if you guys want a Mark I body shell, you want to do a big project, something that requires a lot of welding, some engine building, all that stuff, this shell is for sale right now, so you can check that out. But just like the Super 998 episode, that's about it for right now, and I will catch you guys once we are down in South Carolina. Oh, also, if you're ever in North Carolina or in the South, really, you gotta go to Bojangles. They have the best sweet tea, and no, it's not like the tea overseas. And it's just great biscuits, which are, I guess you guys call them scones. I'm not really sure. This recommendation was going to go a lot better than it just did. However, I don't know what you guys call everything over there. You've got a different name for everything. Anyways, I'll see you guys in South Carolina. All right, so here it is, the Mark I body shell that we will be diving into today. This is the one that is for sale, so if you guys are interested in picking it up, if it's something that you want to take on, obviously it is a bit of a project, but I think that it's going to be super rewarding for whoever ends up picking this up. The link to this is in the description. It is available right now, so head over there. It's probably going to go quick. Mark I bodies, they're hard to get these days. But let's start doing a little bit of a tour around this, and we can see what we've got here. So as you can see, the hood is not attached, but looking at the firewall here, this is all in really good shape. It's pretty damn solid in here. We've got our usual collection of nuts and bolts on the bulkhead here. You'll definitely need some new master cylinders. I don't think those will hold any fluid anymore. But as far as the bumper goes, you only have a little bit of bending here. This can all be kind of ironed back out if you're willing to put a little bit of work into it. But it's pretty solid, you guys. It is a left-hand drive Mini. We'll get into the inside. There's a bunch of stuff back there we're going to kind of pull out and go through so you guys can see it. It is left-hand drive, and it appears to have been originally left-hand drive and never changed. So my guess is this either is a US spec car or a Canadian spec car. It's hard to say for sure without the engine. You don't have the engine for this, right? Yeah, so it's hard to say without the engine for sure. If it had an engine block heater or some kind of fun stuff like that, we would know a little bit more easily. But let's kind of jump around to the back and the sides, and we can see what the rest of this looks like. Now, inside the car, there's a lot of stuff, and we got to get this stuff out. We're going to kind of go through this. There's valve covers from like other cars back there, which we'll have to go through and pull out, but we're going to try and make sure that the stuff that goes with this car is Mini related stuff. So nobody's going to get this and have like a Cosworth valve cover back there or something. But let's start yanking some of this stuff out.
right, so our pillage of the Mark I Mini has been going quite well. As you can see, we have a good assortment of original parts in here. Most of this stuff is 850 related. There's 2 flywheels. I think one of them might be an MG flywheel. Some timing covers, some clutch covers. We have a radiator, some rocker assemblies, some pistons. Most of the stuff I don't think is usable, but all of this will come with the Mini when you purchase it, the stuff that you see here. 2 seats right here. There's 2 seats still in there, at least the frames are. The upholstery is pretty much shot, but we're gonna vacuum it out real quick, and then I'll bring you guys around it one more time so you can get a good look at it, and then we'll go find that oil leak on his other car. So now that you guys have had a good chance to look at the Mark I, it's time to get into why I came down here, which is to see the oil leak, see if we can figure out and diagnose where it's coming from, and to show you guys how you might be able to diagnose an oil leak on your car. Also, sorry if it's super loud. It is raining here, and we're in a metal shed, so it happens sometimes. But let's get underneath the car, and we can take a look and see what the oil leak looks like now, and then where to go from there.
So what we have here is a skid plate. Now the skid plate is really cool in that it, well, protects your bottom of your sump from skids, but there is a drawback. If you have an oil leak like this, sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to get in there and find that oil leak. So you can see here we're collecting oil all along this bottom of the skid plate, along the sides here, and it makes it really hard to identify, you know, where is that oil coming from. We're even got a little bit of oil back here. So first thing we need to do is get this skid plate off so that we can get underneath there, see if we can isolate where the oil's coming from, or at least where it's collecting, and then we'll clean it off and go from there. So let's get the skid plate off. So now what we have here is, well, a lot of oil. It is pretty much permeated itself onto every surface underneath the engine here. We have a lot on our CV boot back here and towards the back, although we do have some coming down the front of the engine as well. What this really says to me is that it's something up on the top side of the engine. Either something benign like the valve cover, which is a really common place to be leaking oil, or something, you know, a little bit harder to get to. Hopefully not from here, but around the lip of the block and the sump where they meet. I really don't think that's the case because based on what Matt told me, this is kind of a newer oil leak. It hasn't been leaking this bad for a while. So really, at this point, there's 2 things. One, in this case, I'm pretty confident, based on the top side of the engine, which I'll show you in a moment, that it's the valve cover. However, if you don't have any oil up there, this will be the time to really clean this off with brake cleaner or some sort of solvent. Really get all of the oil off of the bottom of the sump cover, as well as the subframe. Just clean it, so that when it does leak, you take it for a drive, drive it around, see where it does leak, and then you can follow that oil trail all the way back up. But let's hit the top side of the engine here again, and I'm going to show you guys why I think it's the valve cover.
Now, we're on the top side of the engine here again, and you can see we've got oil buildup around the block and around the head, especially above the head gasket line. So what that says to me is, one, it's not the head gasket, and most likely it's not something below that point. If there was only oil leaking from around the engine down to the bottom, but you didn't see any oil up here, then it would lead me to believe there's something, you know, a little bit worse going on. But you can see there's oil collection all the way around our head, down the front of the block. And then if we get into the back here, it's a little hard to see, but we even have some oil collection on the back side here. And if we look at the top of the manifold, there's even some collection on the top of that. So I can say with pretty much certainty at this point that we have a valve cover leak here. So we just need to replace this gasket and really get this, you know, nice and sealed, which would require kind of a solvent to clean it off, and then a good gasket sealer, as well as a new gasket. All right, so now what we're going to be doing is cleaning off the top of our head here. So first things first, we'll want to take this valve cover off. And take the old gasket off so that we can clean the surface really nice where the gasket is actually meeting. I think what we're gonna do for now, we're a little strapped for time, so we're gonna skip cleaning the bottom side of the block for right now, but just get the sealed surface right here nice and clean so that the new gasket sealer with the new cork gasket can make a nice bond and prevent oil from leaking out in the future. All right, so the key here is to, when you put this back on, you just want to make sure that you are keeping that gasket nice and centered on both the valve cover and on your head, as well as making sure to check the back side and really, really make sure that it doesn't fold over on itself. They really like to do that, and then you'll be smelling oil cooking on the back side of your engine. Once that's all lined up, set down, you can then tighten it down with the valve cover bolts. So once those are tightened back down, you got your valve cover nice and seated. One thing I would recommend is when you're using that Permatex gasket sealer is you let this sit, you let it harden before you drive it. Just let that sealer really make a nice seal with both clean surfaces so that it doesn't leak. So this case of the Minystery is solved. In this case, it was thankfully something pretty benign on the top side of the engine with the valve cover, but you know, your oil leak might be a little bit more complex. You know, not everything is this simple, unfortunately. But if you guys have any questions maybe about an oil leak you have on your car, you know, feel free to post that in the comments section below. Also, just a reminder, the Mark I Mini that is just out of frame here, that is going to be available at the time of posting this video. So if you want to pick that up or you want to reach out to him, you have any questions about it, the link to that is in the description below. It's definitely going to be a big project for someone, but it is, I think personally, it's something that is going to be worth restoring, and it's going to be a cool project for someone who wants to spend the time on it. But thanks so much for watching, and until the next episode of Classic Mini DIY, enjoy those minis and motor on.